male blood donor, 66, male blood donor, sent away from a clinic for refusing to answer the question, are you pregnant? He's given 125 pints of blood over the years, and he said, when he complained, I'm not going to answer this question, I'm a 60-year-old man, why should I? They asked him to leave. It is the most bizarre story. Do these people not understand what is the real world and what's going on in the real world? The man has given 125 pints of blood. We desperately need to give blood all the time.
But the blood transfusion service had changed the form that you have to fill in pre-giving your blood.
Yeah.
And they put in this question for everybody. Are you pregnant, or are you likely to be in the next 6 months?
They're not asking 66-year-old women that question, are they, as well?
Well, they must be. They're asking everybody it, apparently.
But some of the questions, and some of these forms you fill in as well, which are interesting, and if you don't fill in the form, the form isn't accepted if you do it online. But I just think it's ludicrous. I mean, you know, please... let's have a bit of common sense. You know, he's a man. I mean, I hated it as a gay man when we were not... I always gave blood, and we were not allowed to give blood because of AIDS years ago. And it's only just gone back. And that made me so angry. Yeah. Because I've always wanted to give blood. Hey, how else can you get a cup of tea and a biscuit?
Well, quite right.
It was always famous for that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any... value in putting those sort of inclusive questions in a questionnaire, do you think, Ella?
No, I think Pete's completely right. It's the overriding of common sense for some kind of really, intensely bureaucratic form of inclusivity. So it's not about actually let's be clear, people who work on blood donation units, when they see a trans person come in or they're talking to someone and someone tells them that they're trans, they use whatever language they want. They're very caring. They're very polite. This is what healthcare workers have done for years and years and years. You know, there's never been a question of discrimination in the work, particularly in the healthcare service. This isn't trying to fix some kind of grievous wrong. It's just a sort of blanket policy, and you see it in relation to gender-neutral language. There's a huge row going on in Ireland at the moment about the use of gender-neutral language in a maternity policy, which is, not using the word women in a maternity policy, which is driving women in Ireland mad. Similar things are happening over here. And you just think, obviously, the main reason that a health service exists is to treat people. But in terms of how you treat people, how you talk to people, using this kind of intensely bureaucratic, intensely fake language. I mean, it just is a fake thing to ask a 66-year-old man if he's pregnant. What is the point of that? It's insulting. And I think it's probably, it's a real annoyance for people who are coming in and using the service. But it also must drive the staff mad to have to do that.
It?
Yeah, but whoever he was dealing with must have been a bit of a job's worth.
Oh, I'd love to see the person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That person may well have been put in an awkward position themselves because they've been told, well, that's what I would do.
But common sense, or does that not exist anymore?
Well, I think it's really lacking at times.
Very weak.
Let's talk The Guardian and the economic crisis, which could affect schools, pools and libraries.
Yes, we've already been talking this morning about the cost of living crisis, and everybody knows that it's happening. But this is a particular area in which cuts could come into effect. And so we saw throughout the pandemic an issue of councils not having enough funds and the government having to step in and, as Guardian puts it, pump billions into council budgets to avert a system-wide financial failure. And we essentially have a similar situation now where there's a £1.7 billion hole in funding, which, the Guardian reports can mean things like schools, pools and libraries basically get shut down or can't be run, renovations can't be done on them. That impacts on, we know that the government's trying to push sort of healthy eating agendas, and if people can't get to pools and gyms or indeed schools, that's a problem. But there's also a more serious aspect to this, which is that within the cost of living crisis, if people can't, for example, meet their rents and get evicted, which we are going to see a rise in evictions, then you have a pull on the resources of councils for things like housing, like emergency housing, things like that. And if you have this huge financial hole, then that's going to become a problem quite quickly. And the Guardian reports that there are, councils that are saying they're going to have no option but to cut services and put up council tax, which is, I don't know what your council tax is, but council tax at the moment is astronomical. So it's one of those. It's a way of revealing this kind of push and pull of the cost of living crisis, which is, I know that, Stephen, you've been saying, and you both of you have been saying, where's the money going to come from, asking your guests, and that is a real question, a really important question. At the same time, if you're living in your neighbourhood and suddenly your local school is lacking in resources and you can't afford your council tax, what's
well, you need to prioritise schools, don't you?
Do you know what bothers me about this is they're voted in, the councillors are voted in, and they've got this huge budget of millions and millions of pounds. They're not business people.
No.
So that bothers me as well. They don't know taking Peter to Rob Paul, and they're not business people. So, and it needs a business to run with those huge amounts of money.
Yeah, I would sort of agree on that, really. But I'll tell you what, we don't take enough responsibility, because when you look at local elections, the turnout's very low.
It is, yeah.
So
I don't know who to vote for. Well, do some
is.
research and find out, you fools.
Ooh.
Before we run out of time, can we talk... Before we run out of time, Ella, the royal rift, which upsets everybody, I think, and, of course, Prince William turns 40 on Tuesday, so there's lots of writing about him at the moment.
Well, there's this so the Mail has got a big spread talking about the, as they put it, the brothers who've hit rock bottom. And obviously we all know that within this particular family there have been several rifts throughout the years. The Mail notes that William himself hasn't had such a good relationship with his father, but that has changed since he's had kids. And the question is, can Harry and William overcome their differences or their rift to celebrate his birthday? And it looks like no. I mean, as the Mail reports, Harry having thrown accusation after accusation, knowing that silence is the family's only option because they don't want to get dragged into a public slanging match. That's the kind of criticism levelled at him. I'm so deeply uninterested in the royal family. It's not true. So this is, I don't really care if they don't get along or not. But there is a broader question about if the royals are supposed to be this paragon of virtue, which obviously lately they haven't been, but if they're supposed to be this aspirational, moral, kind of exemplary force in British society that we're meant to look up to, these sort of stories probably contradict that.
Yeah, Pete.
And bless him, Andrew didn't go to Ascot. He's getting the message. The royal family felt a lot more comfortable. If we're going to have a king, I'd like to see William as king.
I find it very upsetting that the Mail's writer on this says that, according to her sources, Prince William veers from about Harry. He veers from a feeling of profound grief because he feels he's lost his brother, and anger because he felt that Harry overstepped the mark.
And wouldn't it be nice to know if it was true or not? Because we'll never know.
We don't
We'll never know.
No.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.